What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today has been one of those days where it's just like I'm exhausted because I've been hyped all day. So Putin invaded the Ukraine this morning after giving plenty of warning and essentially asking them to just lay down your arms and go home, because I've already laid out on this channel the Russia argument for their right to the Ukraine. Nonetheless, what happened today in the equity markets is Russia went into the fear trade. Everything Russian just dumped. And so there was this one company, I've spoke about it on a few previous videos over the last 2 or 3 weeks, LukOil. I've been intrigued with LukOil since I heard on a Rick Rule interview, who's one of my favorite all-time, probably my all-time favorite investor. If not, it's like one of his really good friends, Doug Casey. And he's an investor, he's a speculator. He really, by listening to his content, I've really learned how to think through investing. And he's actually, I didn't know this until this year, last year, that Rick Rule was one of the reasons that I spent time in DC and was able to meet a lot of the guys and a lot of the good friends I have now, is a direct correlation to the initial investment that Rick gave one of my buddies and my roommate to start a big organization. Well, a small organization at the time. It was just him, his little Ford Ranger, and his best friend. And now it's 144,000 students, and it's called Students for Liberty. And I was able to be there like the first year. I lived at the Liberty House. Maybe a couple people in the audience may have been there in Arlington, Virginia. The Liberty House is famous in Arlington. But nonetheless, that was you know, so anyway, I've learned a lot from him. I've learned a lot from Doug. Doug has a book called Crisis Investing. Talks a lot about 2010, 11, buying into Cyprus, which is a country over there by Greece after the Greek debt crisis. And Cyprus essentially went bankrupt, and he was buying companies for a penny on the dollar, with the total possibility that they may fail. But he was buying hotels. He was buying things that had like real value. And his case was essentially, look, at some point in time, these things are going to have value. Things will recover. And he did well on all those type of things. So today that happened in Russia. It was really the first time that I was actively able to partake in something like this. And so I learned a lot today. Like, I unpacked it. I'm actually going to journal it out tonight, just because I've started to create a kind of a knowledge base, if you will, like the great book for myself or my family moving forward on like how I think through investing so that I can rationally make better and better decisions. So what happened today is Russia went literally on sale. LukOil, I was watching around $80, went down to 70 yesterday. I bought some around 71. This morning I wake up and my buddy is like, yo, it's down 41% in the aftermarket. And I'm like, there's just no way. And yeah, $60 billion company down into the $20 billion range. And the dividend doesn't necessarily change. And so what was a 9% dividend that I was super excited about yesterday, it was a 17, almost 18% dividend this morning at the bottom. And so I'm literally just trading cash to get 18% of my money. Now there's some risk there. There's the possibility of US sanctions and what companies will be excluded from that. Will they force me as a US slave citizen to essentially sell my equities at some point in time? I mean, maybe, but I mean, I bought it this morning at 36, it's at 50, it's gonna close around 50, 52. So, I mean, okay, I guess whatever, I made like 30, 40% if they force me to sell. But anyway, it was a crisis. It was, Russia's taking back their land, which is the Ukraine, and people on the right seem to be okay with it, and people on the left are like, how are we doing this, bro? Come on, bro. It's never gonna happen, bro. Hey, bro, when all these people we just heard about yesterday, we need to go defend them, bro. The left is doing the bro thing. And anyway, I learned today, about having dry powder on the sideline. I had dry powder on the sideline. Not all of it was deployable. Some of it I had to wait for transfer time. Some of it took an hour to transfer in. I was like, freaking A. It lost, maybe $10 a share on that. Whatever. You learn. I did find a purchase that wasn't on my radar, and I don't normally do this, where I find something and then I buy it, but I'm interested in financials. I think the banks, even domestically, have been beaten down. I'm not too keen on the US banks because I don't really know where they're going, but a guy I follow, Gregory Mannarino, he's keen on the banks, and I see his argument. He's like, look, these are large, big cap, dividend paying stocks, and they're on sale. And if you think they're going to let the banks fail, you're out of your mind. And that's very true in most cases. So in tune with that play, being that my portfolio is probably a lot smaller than what Gregory Mannarino is working with, I looked further out on the risk curve, and I found Russian banks, and because I know nothing about I know finance within, but I know nothing about Russian finance, Russian banks. I do know that Russia has no national debt. They have the second largest gold reserve, and they've got, I mean, basically it's a gas station, as Doug Casey says. Russia is a gas station in the middle of a wheat field with an attached gun store, and he's not wrong on that. And so I looked at the largest bank in Russia, knowing nothing about it, and I found that yesterday it was selling for $15 US a share. This morning it was selling for $3 a share. So I bought a bunch of that because I was like, at $3 a share. Now, one of the reasons that I felt good doing that is it has a PE ratio, which is a price to earnings ratio of 1 to 2. To give you an idea, Facebook is like in the 20 range. Tesla is was for a while in the 1200 range. It's still like in excess of hundreds and hundreds. It's like maybe, I don't know, at this point Tesla's probably selling at like a 600 PE ratio. This is selling at a 2. Essentially every year they're going to make half of their total value at this current price at $3 a share. Now, it's a panic trade, it's a fear trade, it's a Biden's gonna sanction you trade, and that's, I think, Russia's point, and this is a speculation, but I think Russia is like, please sanction us, because we are going to crush and demolish the US financial system, but just please, can you hit the button? Can you do it? Because the way that Putin and China have set themselves up, they don't need to go to war with the US, though I think that they would absolutely win it. Sorry, I'm not on the team. I'm just saying, when you purge your military and force all of them to be compliant little sheep to get their little medical experiments, and then you force the people that are independent thinkers or just don't want to be forced to do that out, you kind of really erode at the foundation of your country and your military, and that's just not good. And then you've got, Canada to the north, and not a single one of our political leaders is chastising them for closing people's bank accounts. Hello, like your people are going to lose faith in the banking system, literally. And I think that's right. China and Russia's play, which is like they've stacked gold. Our elites have, I mean, maybe they have, but they haven't mentioned it. But these people have stacked gold, and they have no national debt. China does, but not Russia. And so, Russia taking the Ukraine basically just shores up their oil position. And so, in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, now it's a better buy than it was yesterday, now that they are actually controlling that land and territory. They have the EU in a stranglehold in the middle of winter. I mean, they have the entire EU basically begging for energy now, because they're super woke and lefty, and ooh, look right until you find it. And like, it's just not good as far as how their leadership, and it's just a failure of the West, where we just think that like we can just decree something like, oh well, you got the Prime Minister of Britain today, we're gonna put sanctions on Russia, this big fat, unkept man who literally would just get his ass kicked by Putin, but his military would certainly get steamrolled by Putin's military. But not only that, just the people in general. I mean, the Russian people, I've dated Russians, I had a roommate that was a Russian. They're just amazing people. They're very hardworking people, and they've been through crisis. They've been through this lefty communist bullshit, and they hate it. And you're talking about a nation that literally collapsed in 1991, and in 30 years has rebuilt itself to becoming like a thorn in the back of all these Western nation sides. And so they're selling. The bank today was selling 80% off, from $15 down to $3, making about $1.50 a share. Over 2 years, I mean, yeah, their profits will probably get hurt, but over the next 2, 3, maybe the numbers will change, might take longer. But what I'm saying is that selling at a discount. And if it corrects, because a lot of times people overreact, if the market corrects tomorrow to $6 or something like that, maybe I'll take my risk completely off and sell half my bag, and I'll just have the extra shares for free. Like, that's an option, you know, and I can just milk the dividends from there, because basically the way I invested in, I'm going to grab 9% of my cash that I threw there today in dividends. Now, their profit might be lower, so it might be lower dividend. But my point there is I could be beyond the point of no concern if tomorrow the market recorrects and goes, oh, we're wrong. The bank's not worth $15 now that the news has changed, but it's not quite worth $3. It's worth like $7.50 or whatever. Well, cool. I bought it at $3. Maybe I'll just sell half my bag or part of my bag at $7, $7.50, whatever it is. And now I'm on the Doug Casey free ride. I am beyond the point of no concern. I don't care what happens if it goes down to $1, down to 50 cents. They sanction it, whatever. But hey, best case scenario, the thing goes back to, you know, its previous all-time high over the next 5 years to a decade. And I'm sitting on a stock that's trading at 50 to 70 bucks that I bought for $3. Not the worst thing in the world. Same thing with LukOil. And that bank was SBER Bank, one word. I believe the ticker was right around there too. It was like SBER, and you can look it up. But anyway, you can buy it on open markets and buy it in USD. And LukOil, which is the one I know the best because I studied it. I've been doing the work. I spoke about it on this channel for the last 3 weeks. I knew, like, I studied the CEO. I studied the founding of the company in 1991. All Russians, by the way, were given the dollar equivalent of $30 when the Soviet Union broke up. Those are people who don't give Putin credit for this. Where they broke up, they gave everyone $30 and they were able to turn it in or buy part of the company they were working at, because everything was owned by the communists and they divided it amongst the people. And a lot of the oligarchs, like the CEO of LukOil, essentially formed LukOil and used those vouchers, if you will, to fund his initial thing. And you're talking about yesterday, it was a $60 billion company. Right now it's trading around 30, 40 billion, whatever. But you're talking about, you know, men that are very hard and that have seen collapse, and over the last 30 years have gotten their nose to the grindstone and have built empires. I mean, they've built empires, and today I had the privilege of buying in at 50% off. Freaking awesome. And part of the shares I bought, I'm getting 17% on that capital. Everything else just averages out. But ultimately, like, where else can I find a 12 or 15%, you know, passive income on oil? And where's oil going to go when your political elites continually shut down oil pipelines? Because by 2030 you will own nothing and you'll be happy. Build back better, and you'll hear that all around. Like, you can watch YouTube clips of like build back better, build back better, build back better. Like, it's the World Economic Forum theme song. And the whole point is, if we can get to $400 a barrel oil and you plebs aren't driving anymore, or you go down to one car, or you realize, oh, it's easier just to live in a more localized manner, you know, use less carbons, well, that's good, because oil is still going to rip. People that own it are going to make a ton of money. Exploration in oil was at an all-time low at last year in 21. So literally what is happening is we're entering into an energy crisis 3 or 4 or 5 years from now, because the sources that we're mining now are not being replenished. So what's going to occur is no one's replenishing these sources. So at some point there's a pinch and there's a spike. And at that point, maybe I'll sell half my bag, and then I'll have that cash. And maybe the Dow will drop 50% at one point in time, and I'll be able to use that cash and scoop it and buy it. Or I can just divest and just grab more metal, because that's my number one position, is physical metal. And that is physical silver. And that is the other thing I spend my day-to-day doing. Is we spent, I think, when all the orders are done, I think we're going to have maybe not quite 15 grand in metal orders today that were done, but a lot. And at least a lot for me, based on like my experience so far. And so if you guys have not started building a position in physical metal, silver, gold, I would love to help you out. If nothing else, just give you some advice, or give you just chat with you on how to buy it. Because if you're buying a smaller quantity, like be it under 1,500 or under 2,000, maybe it doesn't make sense to go through a brokerage. Maybe it makes sense just to go down to your local coin store. And maybe you haven't bought any at this point in time, and maybe you just want to try, just go buy one. I will still just jump in my DMs on Instagram. I will still totally help you, because I think that the way we win this, and by win this and against who, like, it's literally the political elites. Like, these people are the freaking problem. And It's getting as much real money, good money, in the hands of as many good people as possible for when the real crisis comes. And I'm telling you, it's definitely freaking coming. And the way that you have freedom throughout this process is you find ways to build wealth. And I don't care if it's just buying one share of LukOil or it's buying a coin of silver. I don't care if it's going through your change like I just did recently and finding the real copper, because this stuff is worth two cents. If it's pre-1982, it's worth 2 cents, and you can get it for 1 cent. I don't care if it's just doing that. That is how you start the process. Journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. Everybody started the exact same way. Even the CEO of LukOil, I was reading his story, started the same damn way. Like, he came from a well-to-do family, for sure, during the Soviet Union times. But when the whole thing freaking collapsed on him, he was like, you know what? I'm gonna be a freaking entrepreneur here. I'm gonna be a boss. And and now the market is discounting his company because he's associated with Russia, even though all of that gas in the Ukraine is about to become theirs for free. Hey, I'm not picking a side really on this. Like, I don't believe in states, and I don't want to live in a nation-state world. But since we do, the value of LukOil went down today because the market got scared, but the actual real value in oil reserves that they now own or will own by the end of the month went way up. Okay, sounds good. Also, the U.S., we'll wrap with this, the U.S. had fourth generation nuclear plants. So 4 plants, 4th generation nuclear plants being built in the Ukraine, courtesy of your American tax dollars. They're not building nuke plants here so that the energy costs can become like close to zero and the carbon footprint can be zero and we can actually compete on a global stage and manufacture right here and create jobs. No, they're spending money with Hunter Biden and his buddies so that they can build nuke plants over there. And that's why the US elite have to go and protect them. And they're losing the faith and trust of the plebs. And the plebs are gonna turn on them. And I'm telling you, you're sitting on a 250-year revolutionary cycle and it's gonna pop off. It's gonna happen. The truckers are on their way to DC. Heaven forbid one idiot Capitol Police officer shoots the wrong guy and it really starts. So we are right there on the freaking edge. Not that you have to be scared. You have to look at the opportunities and you have to play it, because this is going to be the largest wealth transfer in the history of the world over this course of this decade. We've never, ever been here before on the planet, where literally fiat currencies are going to go to zero. And silver, gold, possibly cryptos are going to literally become the replacement currency. It's going to be unbelievable, the amount of wealth that changes hands. Just the amount of wealth changing hands in the domestic U.S. agriculture sector. The majority, or the average age rather, of the average U.S. farmer is 60 years old. Over the next 10 years, over half of all U.S. farming assets are going to change hands. And those new hands might just be yours and they might just be mine. And so accumulating capital right now to be able to buy beat down farms or beat down assets, especially in a world where fertilizer is in short supply, atrazine Roundup is in short supply. Good, we shouldn't be using that garbage. It ends up in the oceans, it kills all the fish. We should be doing, that's some boomer bullshit that we're doing. We should be doing this a lot more like the Native Americans did it. And you watching and myself, I want you to accumulate capital. Please accumulate capital, because the moment is gonna come where we're gonna be able to buy all of these assets. And I'll leave you with that. Thank you for the comments, thank you for the likes, thank you for sending this video to a friend or family member that might need to hear it or would open their eyes or get interest in their little membrane. That would be a huge help to me, huge help to the channel. I appreciate you guys and your attention. And until next video, I'll see you down in the comments.